Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Checkride Chat. Again, my name is Wally,
I'm Jason.
and we're going to continue our exploration of the ACS. We're still in pre-flight procedures.
Not for long.
Yeah,
Almost
there.
there. Almost there.
There you go. We're in pre-flight procedures. We're up to task F, which is the before takeoff, is all it says. So we're going to try to get through landings today. So here we go. So, looking at the before takeoff, what do you have to say about all this, Jason?
I can sum this up pretty quick. You've already taxied out to the runway. You've had your taxi diagram out. You've written your instructions, or you've drawn your instructions, so we're not getting lost. You go to the run-up pad. You've done your run-up checklist. That's all your before takeoff checklist, right? So what I can say here is this is pretty easily summed up. You have complete this checklist before you leave that run-up area. Do not get to the hold short line. United 1, 2, 3, clear for takeoff. Oh, hold on 1 second. I got to do it. I got to do. It's not. I'm not talking about your run-up. It's your final setup, right? The whole lights, camera, action setup. That needs to be done. Like lights, camera, action is right before you take the runway. So lights, turn your lights on. Camera, that's your transponder on, and action is actually the go, right? But the point is, everything needs to be complete. If you're doing a short field takeoff, a soft field takeoff, that is set up and briefed before you leave that run-up area. When you get to that hold short line, your next task is a go.
That is a head scratcher for me, because for me on privates and commercials, I will give a performance takeoff for the first takeoff.
I'm always a short field takeoff.
Yeah,
for the first take. Always. It makes sense.
Yeah, I do a soft field for the first one, and so you're probably going to be doing something with the flaps. Some airplanes yes, some airplanes no, but most airplanes yes, and it's a head scratcher why when we're in the we're not up to the hold lines, but we're doing the run up and we don't set the flaps at that point. Why not set the flaps at that point?
It's coming.
Yeah.
Right. So by waiting, you kind of run the risk. A lot of flight schools, and I love it, they do really good leaning practices.
Yeah.
So they leave right before they leave the run up pad, they lean. They're the only one. They lean, and then not more often than not, I would say it's 50-50. They pull it back because that's what the checklist told them to do.
Right.
But then they take the runway and I know we've talked about leaning before, but just down in Houston, it's mixture's rich, right? It's full. It's mixture's full. So a lot of the times they'll actually forget to push that mixture up. When I do rides in Denver, the Denver lean, right? It's you do in the run-up is when you're finding that best power mixture ratio. So in Denver, no, you're not going to push it full forward.
Right.
But yeah, if that makes any type of sense. Before you leave that run-up area, every checklist is complete. Your takeoff briefing is complete. You are not at the hold short line. Clear for takeoff. All right, hold on. I got to give you a takeoff briefing, Wally, because all that's going to do is upset the tower.
Right. You need to be, if the tower says clear for immediate takeoff, you should be in a position to accept that. Now, if you can't, are there times where maybe something has come up, you just simply tell them unable, and they'll probably tell you to hold short, cancel takeoff clearance or something like that. That's okay. It's not, not ideal, but if that's what you need to do, then that's what you need to do. But be ready to go when you're out there at the hold short line.
So that's it. Just checklist complete. I would say before when you're in line for takeoff, the only thing on your mind should be the next item, and that's thrust up or throttle up for takeoff.
Right. Next thing, we jump into area of operation 3, which is airport and seaplane base operations. And task A is communications, light signals, and runway lighting systems. So, we're actually in the airplane at this point. I don't really see a whole lot of issues with this. I would say this, if you are number 3, here's a thought. If you are out in the run-up area, you might, at what point do you switch over to tower? And so many times we have one local airport where the ATIS says, it says contact tower when number one for takeoff. Now they don't say anything about monitoring tower. So let's say we are in line for takeoff and there are two airplanes in front of us. You're number three. Do we really care what's going on at Joe's FBO, a half mile behind us that somebody's calling for a clearance to Arkadelphia, Arkansas? Do we care about that? No, we don't care about that. But if we're monitoring tower at this point, and again, monitoring, we haven't contacted them yet, but we're developing some situational awareness. If the four airplanes in front of you are given runway heading, probably a pretty good chance you're going to get runway heading. I think you're developing some SA.
It's true. And on that note, that's why you tune in, when you're coming into an airport, tune in, whether it's towered or non-towered, tune in about the 15-mile marker. I would say is a good number. If you want to go more, go more.
Yeah.
But you're going to start getting trends. What's the tower giving? What traffic pattern are they using?
Yeah.
What runway are they using? How many people are there? It increases your SA.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's your radio communication. Be ready. A lot of times airports want to be, the tower will say, contact us when you're number one. But a lot of times you're out there and they'll say, who's number two at runway 9? And so just, you want to be able to answer that question if that ever comes up.
Correct. All they're trying to do is for their SA.
Yeah.
All they're trying to do is plan
right
your departure, probably in and around between arrivals.
Right.
So they just want to know what to expect.
Yeah. Because if he knows you're going eastbound and the airplane in front of you is going westbound, he can probably get
Launch
you
you
out
pretty quick.
Yeah, there's not as much separation. But if you're going the same direction, it may be an issue. All right, so let's jump over to Task B. Task B is traffic patterns. This is a little bit of a slippery slope. This is the ACS. So when I look at this, I look at non-towered airports a little bit more than towered airports. Towered airports, you do what they tell you to. Okay, but if we'll
get to that in a second,
right,
on landing clearances.
If we look at traffic patterns down in the skills, it says comply with recommended traffic pattern procedures. At a non-towered airport, really, from a regulatory standpoint, you can do whatever you want. Okay, there are recommended procedures, and the recommended procedures are how to enter the traffic pattern from a 45 if you're coming from the other side, crossover midfield, and the teardrop and entry and all that.
What Wally's trying to tell you is, in a Checkride, use the recommended pattern entries, because that's what the ACS says.
That's what the ACS
What we're telling you is just pilot to pilot. I can't say anything goes at a non-towered airport,
right,
but there's nothing to say you can't enter a 10-mile right base.
Right.
There's nothing to say you can't enter a 20-mile straight-in final. It's non-towered.
Yeah.
But there are recommended. I would say if you can comply with the recommended, you should, because that's what everybody is expecting you to do.
Yes.
Don't throw other, whoever's in the pattern a curveball because you just want to be different.
Yeah. So I guess that during a debrief, if you come up and say, well, that's just the recommended procedure, I can do whatever I want, and then I guess we could throw out, but the ACS says you will do the recommended procedures. So remember that. Anyway, what else about traffic patterns? Another, I don't know, I guess I hate to use the phrase pet peeve, but I was on a ride just yesterday, and the person in front of us was flying these incredibly long, wide, huge traffic patterns. It was just really messing everybody up. So I'm not going to get into all that.
No, there's a meme floating along, and it was some old salty dog pilot, and the guy was like, "You cut me off in the pattern." They're like, "What? At what airport were you flying that pattern?" Because it certainly wasn't where we are, because it was 4 miles. I mean, hell, you can get extremely ridiculous. Don't go to the whole purpose of a pattern. Don't fly too tight, because you're going to mess yourself up, right? A good idea width-wise from a runway on a downwind. In a low wing, your wingtip needs to graze the edge of the runway.
Yeah.
Like if you look out your left wing, the wingtip, you should be able to see wingtip and immediately followed by the runway.
Right.
In the high wing, I would say the runway needs to be 1/2 to 3/4 up the strut. That's a good depth. That's a good width from the runway.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of like a traffic pattern is truly getting to the commercial level. If you lose your engine, I'll give you 3 guesses. You can make the runway.
Yeah.
When you start bowing out,
Yep.
you're kind of playing with failure at that point.
Yeah.
And I understand new guys, it's going to be a wide traffic pattern. As with anything, you need a wide berth because you're learning, right? And as you get better, you need to start bringing that traffic pattern back into, reality. So the distance from the runway, low wing, graze the wingtip. It should be wingtip and then a runway. High wing, we already said it. Turn from upwind to crosswind, 300 below TPA. Crosswind to base, 45 to the numbers. And then downwind to, did I say that? Crosswind to downwind, sorry. Crosswind to downwind, 45 to the numbers.
Yeah.
Downwind to base, 45 to the numbers.
Yeah.
And what are we doing testing in a traffic pattern? If it's a heavy wind, we're testing crab. Can you maintain? Are you getting pushed to the runway?
Yeah.
Are you getting pushed away from the runway? Do you overshoot the runway when you turn final? Things like that. So we're looking at all of these things in one.
And CFIs, please don't teach we turn base over the hardware store or the tree down there. That's a bad way of doing things, because guess what? The hardware store is not going to be at the airport that's 50 miles down the road. And the other thing is, sometimes those turns have to be, a lot of times those turns have to be adjusted based on other traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can't turn at a 45 because somebody's there. So the adjustments need to be made.
Yep.
Let's see. Anything else about traffic patterns that, in general, I don't see a.
So flipping back to the tower thing, just because it's a traffic pattern. This traffic patterns are anywhere. On a towered airport, you're clearly going to comply with what the tower says. Extend final, I'll call your base. Okay, that's fine. But what I can say from a towered standpoint, what they say matters. So cleared for, let's just use it, cleared to land. What does that mean?
It means cleared to land, not a touch and go.
Yeah, cleared to land means you're going to land and you're getting off the runway.
Yes.
It's just unless you go around.
Yes.
But cleared to land means you're landing and you're done.
Yeah.
Cleared for a touch and go. Cleared touch and go. That's exactly what you can touch and go. That's it.
Yeah.
Cleared stop and go. You are cleared to bring the aircraft to a stop and then go.
Yep.
Cleared for the option. This is the fun one. Do what you want.
All of the above.
All of the above.
Yeah.
You can land, you can touch and go, you can stop and go. Cleared for the option is exactly what that means.
Yeah.
Read that back and you're cleared to do whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
If you don't ever force this even at the airlines, don't ever force a landing out of a bad approach. If you don't like the approach, if you don't like the flare, if you don't like the landing, the answer to that is go around.
Yeah, a go around is always an option.
Go around is free. Go around. Don't ever try to force yourself into a scenario you don't like. Don't let another aircraft force yourself into a scenario you don't like.
Yeah.
Go around, try it again. When you go around, tell the tower, Cessna 123 going around.
Yeah.
They may ask you, state the reason.
Right.
tell them I was unstable, I was high, I was low,
Yeah.
I hit a gust.
Yeah.
What they just want to know.
Yeah.
Was it them? Was it you? Was it
Right.
nature? Was it another plane? Did you see something they didn't see, etc. So
Yeah.
just go around.
And one thing I'll add, this maybe goes into radio communication, but it has a lot to do with non-towered airport operations. If you look on radio communications in the AIM, and the AIM is the stuff that you should do, not stuff that you shall do, but it's the should part of the regulations, if you will, even though it's not regulatory. It says when you're stating your airplane, your call sign, you should use the aircraft manufacturer's name or the type of airplane. So if you're in a traffic pattern at a non-towered airport, just to call up and say 123 Alpha Bravo is on a left downwind runway 36. If I'm there and I look up and I see an airplane there and I think, well, that must be 123 Alpha Bravo. So just throw in your aircraft type. The AIM says manufacturer's name or type. I think type is better.
Skyhawk, Skylane, Cherokee, Archer, Warrior.
Now
it helps everybody.
Yeah, people know what they're looking for.
They know what they're looking for, and the bigger thing when it comes to a tower, that's SA for them because they know the performance specs.
Yeah.
Right. Cessna 123, 10 mile final 1-4 talking
Right.
to the tower.
Right.
And here comes a Learjet.
Yeah.
Lear 23 Alpha.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're probably going to be broken off that approach because that
Right.
Lear is going 5 times your speed.
Right.
So that's the SA aspect of it because that Lear could check in November 23 Alpha.
Yeah. That's right.
That tells nobody really anything. It's not wrong, but
Yeah.
there are definitely better practices.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to task.
Takeoffs,
Okay, we're
landings.
now in AOA 4, takeoffs, landings, and go-arounds. Okay, so we on a private Checkride, we did need to do normal.
Normal
Takeoff,
takeoff, normal landing.
And I'm just going to say this: it's a normal. That's the verbiage: normal takeoff, normal landing, not regular. People ask me all the time, what kind of landing do you want this to be? A regular one? And I said, no, a normal one. And they kind of look at me. Use the verbiage that's in the ACS in all the documentation. Nowhere will you see the term regular landing. It's normal takeoff and landing. I know it's not a huge deal, but hey.
We know what you mean,
Yeah.
but I get it.
So normal takeoff and landing, a short field takeoff, short field landing, a soft field takeoff, soft field landing.
Forward slip.
For a private only. And then for the commercial, we get the one that we all love. The
Power off 180.
Power off 180.
That's typically held to the very
Yeah.
end.
So normal takeoff and landing, there's if you look down at the skills elements, the first thing for every one of these takeoffs and landings is to complete the appropriate checklist. Okay. Now, a lot of flight schools have gotten a little bit wise to this, and they've taken the landing checklist and they've smacked them right there on the instrument panel.
The after takeoff and the landing checklist.
Yeah.
After takeoff checklist, before landing checklist. I've done it in my airplanes.
Yeah.
Because nobody can say you never read a checklist.
Right, right. But lots of, we all know this, lots of flight schools, or you're out there, you're doing touch and goes, and quite frankly, you're not doing these landing checklists. And I get it, especially in a Cherokee or Warrior, there's not a whole lot on that landing checklist. Maybe the fuel pump and the landing light, and if you're in the pattern, they're probably just going to stay on. I get it, but it's a mindset. It is a mindset. You start getting in a multi-engine airplane, you've got props to worry about, you've got something really important, the wheels, the landing gear, you might have cowl flaps, you might have an air conditioner, you might have yaw dampers, there's lots of
In the
stuff.
Cessnas, you got to turn off the, I know the 172s don't, but the 182s and up, you have to turn off the power outlets, the voltage.
Okay.
For
Right.
cigarette lighters
Yeah.
or whatever you have plugged, your USB ports, that has to get turned off.
Okay. So just using the checklist is just, man, it's the right thing to do. And it says that we've got to check you on this. So not using a checklist, there have been so many disapproval debriefs where I've given, and I'm sitting with the applicant and the CFI and saying, he or she never picked up a checklist. We did all these landings and they never used a checklist. And
so I say it. I really harp on the multi, but GUMPS is not a checklist.
Right.
GUMPS is a flow.
Right.
So I love flows. Flow.
Yeah.
Follow with a checklist.
Yeah. And then there is actually a standard for a normal approach and landing to land within 400 feet of the specified point. Now, really on a normal landing, I probably don't specify a point.
I stick with touchdown zone.
Yeah.
That's first third or first 3,000 feet. That's a normal landing.
Right.
We'll get to that in a second, but on the softs and the shorts, the shorts we specify a point. That's the only place we specify a point.
Right.
Meaning on a normal or a soft, as long as you're in the touchdown zone, that's legal. That's good to go. I'm just looking at your highlighted stuff here. Here's one: no side drift.
Yes.
So no side load. So when would that happen, Wally?
Crosswind,
meaning you didn't correct for a crosswind. So if we land and get shoved into respective doors because you side loaded the aircraft, that's not good. You didn't anticipate, and that's kind of why we practice slips. That's why we practice crosswind landings.
Yeah, I remember being at a flight school 7-8 years ago for a Checkride, and the winds were significant out of the west or the east, a crosswind. Most of our runways here in southeast Texas are north-south. And I walked out of the room that we're in, and all the CFIs were sitting around, and they're all just sitting around talking. I go, well, how come nobody's flying? They go, crosswinds.
Go play.
And I said, my God, you ought to be on your phone to your more advanced students, calling them and saying, get yourself out here. Let's go do this. I flew last Sunday with my wife, and the winds were howling here, and the tower actually even said something to us. They said, one of the controllers says, glad to see you guys out here in this kind of wind. How are we going to learn to do it if we don't do it? And I think that's the problem. I think, the reason our students aren't great at crosswinds is because they haven't done it. And
some of that is the schools and their insurance limitations.
Yes.
I understand that. However, don't take up a new student pilot, new private pilot, or I can't even say private pilot. That depends. I mean, that's loaded too. Where are they at? Right. Not in training, but they may only have a private, but they may have years of experience.
Right.
Get up and get within. Don't go extreme. Obviously, we're not saying go up in level 5 storms, but a good solid crosswind, that is good practice.
Yeah.
Get up there, and if you guys don't know how to do it, go find somebody that is comfortable with it and go get comfortable.
Right.
I see it all the time. They get really good for the privates, and then they go get their instrument rating, and we come in on the last landing of the instrument check ride, so they're landing out of the ILS typically, and there's an 8-knot, 10-knot crosswind. And what do? We land completely sideways.
Yeah.
Because they've never, it's all air work primarily for instruments.
Right.
They've lost that skill set of crosswind. So even if you're training instruments and it's a beautiful weather, it just happens to be windy, go keep that skill set up. Take a break from instrument and go do some crosswind landings. Maintain that skill set. Right.
And you can probably find an airport somewhere around that has a crosswind on a given day. I think it's a really good thing. And again, this is on the ACS. We're looking at the normal landing under the skills section, touchdown at proper pitch attitude within 400 feet or on the specified point with no side drift, and with the airplane's longitudinal axis aligned and over the runway center.
That's that big dashed white line down the middle of the runway.
If you ever taken a check ride with me, you've probably heard this. I will say, as a taxpayer, you pay for the entire runway, so we don't just have to use the right side of the runway. We can
Or the
use,
left.
yeah,
I want the whole thing.
we can use the whole runway. So anyway, so that's the normal. The next one
Normal's
is
normal. Now, all right, soft. It's going to go soft then short. So soft field takeoff and soft field landing. Again, complete the checklist, right? So flaps, typically 10, or archers or warriors, I think that's 25. My memory serves me.
I think so.
There's no soft field in a twin. It's only shorts, right? So complete the checklist, do it. And then the whole takeaway on a soft field takeoff, if you're allowed to, I think one of the light bulb moments is after you've practiced this a little bit, if the flight school allows you to, go land on a grass strip. That is the ultimate, ding.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Your main gear can take potholes. Your main gear on a Piper, on a Cessna, whatever, your main gear can take that rough terrain, rough turf, rough runway surface. Your nose gear can't. That you have to baby your nose gear. So that's where you pull back, right? You don't need to pull back low rider and drag your tail. You just need to pull back enough where the weight on the nose is very, very light. Meaning the nose kind of is either off the ground or just barely skips across the top of the ground.
Yeah.
Don't pull back too much where you can't see over the dash and the center line.
Right.
Like I've seen that. They just yank it back.
Yeah.
As you gain airspeed, you're going to have to release that back pressure. You just need a light nose.
Yeah.
You're going to get airborne, right? Because of ground effect. This might come up. What's the definition of ground effect? So you're going to keep it in ground effect. Let it accelerate. Most likely, you're actually probably doing a little bit of forward pressure. The plane wants to fly away from the ground.
Right.
Don't let it.
Right.
Now, here's where a little bit of finesse comes into play. When you get to your VX or VY or whatever your checklist says, just simply release the forward pressure. You do not need to pull. Again, that airplane wants to go up.
Right.
Just allow it to go up. Don't make it aggressive.
Yeah.
And as you're nicely away from the ground above your obstacle, you don't need to ditch your flaps at 51 feet either.
Right.
Don't ditch your flaps at 1,000 feet.
Right.
But just nicely away from the ground, everything's smooth. Put your flaps up and just continue your climb out.
Yeah.
And then you're going back into the normal pattern. Everything on a soft field landing, everything on a short field landing, it's all normal. Once you've cleaned up, you go and transition back into a normal pattern.
Right.
Fly the normal pattern. Coming back around for the soft field landing, again, your whole takeaway is try to baby your nose gear.
Yeah.
So you want to land, hopefully soft. You want to keep that nose up because you need to baby the nose gear. Make smooth, timely, correct control inputs after touchdown. Once you do touchdown, keep the nose gear up. Again, don't pull up so much where you can't see where you're going. Keep the nose, nice and light, maybe a little bit off the ground. How do we maintain that? So this is where a lot of people, they're going to do a soft field landing, but they're going to come in with short field techniques.
Right.
So a soft field landing, again, there's no per se point. It's just the touchdown zone. So you don't have to hit the 1,000 footers. A lot of people will come in with a little bit more speed. It's actually, I'm manufactured not more than 1.3, so it's plus 10. So I typically say, why don't you add about 5 knots if I'm teaching. That 5 knots is maybe about 100 on the RPM. Just a little bit more prop wash, a little bit more power, and that assists you with arresting the descent.
Right.
It's much easier to fly that to the ground with a little bit more speed, and that's how you can control that nice soft landing.
Yeah.
Maintain that back pressure after touchdown, and all you're going to bleed off the speed, and then when the nose finally does kind of come down, you're slow enough where if you did hit a pothole, it's not going to shear the gear off. That's the takeaway on a soft field landing.
Right.
Did I miss anything?
No, I mean, you're just landing on a mushy, and I tell people it rained last night, we're landing on a grass field. You know, it's a little bit mushy down there. I believe in the airplane flying handbook, there's a little blurb about a technique of, at the last minute, just adding just a touch of power.
That's
just
come in just a little bit more.
Yeah, and just make a nice, smooth landing. All right, now we've got short field takeoff, short field landing.
What's a pet peeve about a short field takeoff, Wally?
Well,
if I see it, I always debrief it after the fact. But
I think you're getting at the holding the brakes.
Holding the brakes. All available runway, they have the flaps. If we need flaps, we have flaps. If some Cessnas, you don't need flaps. Some Cessnas read the POH.
Yes.
Some is flaps up, meaning 0. Some is flaps 10.
Yeah.
And if you read short field takeoffs, you got to see what your POH says.
Yeah.
If it's some are, again, 0 is what we want, 10 is what we want, or it's 0 or 10 depending if you have to clear an obstacle or not.
Right.
So open that POH and read that POH.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at, it's a debrief item for me, is they'll go all available runway, they'll get on the center line, the flaps are set, there it is, they're holding their brakes, and they go full thrust. That is a correct statement. And then I have seen it in it's a good percentage, I'd say 30% of the time, they will count backwards from 10 at full thrust.
Yeah.
And then they'll release the brakes and go.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that. Hold the brakes, throttle up, everything, static RPM, everything's in the green, release. That should be throttle up, and you should be rolling in 2 to 3 seconds.
Yeah.
You do not need to hold the brakes for an extended amount of time to make sure your engine is stabilized. It's throttle up. Trust me, it's stable or it's not. There is no in between here.
Yeah, and I will say I remember years ago, with the airline, and I don't know if how a Boeing works is correct to compare it to how a Cessna works or a Piper, but I remember it came out that Boeing determined that doing a static takeoff, in other words, holding the brakes, pushing the power up, and then releasing the brakes versus just adding the power, the amount of distance saved was negligible. And again, I don't know if the comparison works, but I'm like you. There have been times where the airplane is just shaking so bad from all this power.
It simply says apply brakes while setting engine power to achieve maximum performance.
Yeah.
At no point does it say hold it for 10 seconds.
Right.
Or even 5 seconds.
Right.
It's hold the brakes, throttle up, all my instruments look good, release.
Yeah.
That's that.
And in my ground portion in the oral, we will have talked about runway distance required. I'll ask them, what do we need? What's our ground roll today for takeoff? And usually they're using the short field chart, so they'll tell me it's 765 feet, and I have stored that number in the back of my head. So I know that we should be airborne well before those 1,000-foot markers if we happen to have them on this runway. And if we're not, it's kind of like, okay, well, what are we doing wrong? Why didn't this turn out this way?
So short field takeoff, for the most part, that it's like a normal takeoff. That's pretty easy. It's just set your flaps, full power, release the brakes, climb out at VX, clear your obstacle, pitch. I always like it. Go from VX to VY, get your airspeed still climbing, flaps up. I wouldn't ditch my flaps at VX because you're going to get a sink rate. So increase your speed to VY, ditch your flaps, and just then go continue the normal climb out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Short field landing is the kind of the fun one. A lot of people are, I think, intimidated by this for some reason.
Yeah, and we just discussed this right before we hit the record button. Jason and I both have different approaches to this one, and it's fine. We were given a little bit of latitude. It says touchdown on the specified point, and guess what? Jason and I used different specified points. So I would say this to the CFIs: don't just go out and pick the 1,000-foot markers
100%.
and do all your landings on the 1,000-foot markers, because I'm going to ask for something different.
Do the numbers, do the 1,000-footers, do a runway intersection, change it up. Like that's kind of where we're going with this.
Yeah.
Wally, I guess he says he used the numbers. I like the 1,000-footers, and it's a debrief item for me too. At a private, there's a little more latitude. For a commercial, I don't like it when they pull what a lot of the privates do, meaning they'll come down to the numbers and they'll be over the numbers, and then they'll be at almost stall horn on.
Yeah.
And they'll kind of hold it as best as they can 2-3 feet off the runway for 1,000 feet, and then they'll just release the power and plonk onto the 1,000-footers.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that.
Right.
And the reason I'm not a fan of that is if anything happens to that power, to a wind gust, to a whatever, and you land short, there are certain discretionary items in a check ride. There are certain kind of shore kill items in a check ride. The short field landing, very simply, is a shore kill item. If you land short, that is a disapproval.
Right.
And when you come back, well, it was only a foot short, it was only 5 feet short, you just crashed.
Yes.
Yeah, I get it. We have 1,000 feet of concrete that you're kind of going over, but that's not the takeaway. You need to remember, whatever point we say, anything prior to said point, you need to consider that water.
Yeah.
You need to consider that lava. Do not, if you don't like that approach, you don't think you're going to do it, we already said it, go around.
And this is right in the ACS. You have a get out of jail free card.
Yep.
It says execute a timely go around if the approach cannot be made within the tolerance specified above.
Everybody tries to force these landings.
Right.
So let me go back. So I'm not a fan of when they come down to the numbers and then not float, hold the runway at 2 feet, praying to God that they're going to hit the 1,000-footers.
Right.
I like the steeper approach angle.
Yes.
That your points the 1,000-footers, your points the whatever the numbers, the intersection. It needs to be a solid, constant angle to that point.
Right.
And I can describe it, and hopefully it makes sense to you guys. It's pitch for airspeed, power for altitude.
Yes.
Find your airspeed at about 500 feet. Be on that airspeed. Have your aim point be on speed by, say, 500 feet on final.
Right.
Then use the thrust, use the throttle. That your airplane just became an elevator. Yeah. The only way you're going to get to that point is how you manipulate that throttle.
Yeah.
Maintain that airspeed. Do not get slow. What happens when you get slow? You stall. What happens when you get fast? The only way to bleed that speed off is float, meaning you're going to miss your point.
Right.
Find that speed, stick to that speed, use the throttle to make your touchdown point.
The other thing that I see a lot, and maybe as a flight school owner, you may not like this, but I'll say it anyway. It says use manufacturer's recommended procedures for airplane configuration and braking. So I want to see
brakes
braking.
Are $10.
Brakes. They're not that expensive.
They're not.
What I see a lot is we touch down and I hear simulated max braking.
And that, we've said this before, that is, you are going to play how you practice.
Right.
Meaning you're going to actually need to do this, and you've done all these practices, and you're not going to max brake because you've never actually done it.
Right.
So when you touch down, you should be at idle.
Yeah.
It's flaps up, yoke back. Don't pull the yoke back too much where you go secondary flying.
Right.
Right. But flaps up, yoke back, and it is max manual braking. You ditch the flaps to reduce lift and get all the weight on wheels so you can maximize braking.
And what I'm going to say, as soon as you get on the brakes for about a second, I will say, okay, you can get off the brakes. But I've had 4 almost crashes on check rides, what I would call.
Lock them up.
3 of them were in the air, but one of them was a braking situation where I don't know if it was a mechanical problem or it was just a user error problem, but we went left and I took the airplane and during the debrief I said, what happened? And the applicant said, well, I've never used brakes in my life. And I'm like, oh my God, thank the CFI was there, and I just looked over at the CFI and I said, yeah, are you hearing this? You presented someone for a check ride and they've never used brakes in their life.
Because it's like, oh, it's fine, just say it, say it. It's not fine. Right. So I had one the other day. I'm pretty sure it was a private. He passed. He did really, really well. But he was a little fast, and he was late on the flaps. So he pulled back and hit the brakes, and we weren't in ground effect. But you just heard the squealing all over because it wasn't max weight.
Right.
So it was a very superficial.
Yeah.
So we had excess speed. He still had the flaps out, and he did it. He figured it out. He actually went around.
Yeah.
He got off the brakes. He's like, I don't like this, and he went around. He was already on the runway, which is fine. He came back around and did it again, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So. He didn't like it. He didn't want to force anything bad, so we got out of there. We were on the ground for 50 feet.
Yeah.
So, and he was, see you later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he made the right decision on that.
And again, every one of these landings, the first skills item is complete the appropriate checklist. So we gotta do that. Okay, this has to do with seaplane.
Seaplane, glassy water, rough water, forward slip, go back.
Okay.
There you go. All right, forward slip to a landing. How I do this in the Cessnas, I'll say, okay, we have your simulated electrical failure.
Yep.
Meaning you're not getting your flaps out.
Right.
You got to land.
Right.
So I'll say, I want you to forward slip this into the landing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's, I'll say it, sometimes it's entertaining.
Yeah.
To just watch somebody. They think they know how to slip and they don't.
Yeah.
So here's 2 things. You turn into the wind. So if there's no wind, all right, that's your call, pick a side. But you turn into the wind. That means your ailerons are turned into the wind. And then you use opposite rudder to maintain centerline.
Right.
You, the pilot, you can slip with flaps. It said most manufacturers say avoid extended slips with flaps.
Right.
So you need to come down at typically flapless and most likely idle.
Yeah.
You control your speed.
Yes.
I love it when they turn, and they're real aggressive about it too. There's like zero finesse. They turn full aileron, they go full rudder, and they just simply push down.
Yes, and the airspeed goes
out the window. It's 95, 100 knots, whatever it might be, and I'll watch it. And what do? They get into ground effect.
Yep,
and they're 30 knots over their normal landing speed, and they just float. And if you're good, you're going to go around, and guess what? There's my go around.
Yeah.
But you control the airspeed. So flight instructors, go get to altitude or go get to whatever. Tell them to slip. Tell them to slip at 70 knots. Tell them to now slip at 90 knots.
Right.
Back to 80 knots. Play with them and let them slip. And the faster you slip, the higher the airspeed is what I'm saying. That is when you actually need more aileron and more rudder.
Right.
The slower you slip, typically you need less control input. So that's where if they try to slip at 65 or 70 knots and they go full, it's actually pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't need that much.
And the standard on this one is 400 feet. Touchdown at proper pitch attitude within 400 feet beyond or on the specified point. And also this talks about no side drift where the airplane's longitudinal axis aligned with and over the runway centerline path.
So guess what's a good practice to master crosswinds? How about slipping?
Slipping, absolutely.
Slipping. That's
Absolutely.
why we need to play with slips to master crosswinds.
Yeah, and there's no slip required on a commercial, but that is a private. And we're going to do go rounds on all check rides. So it's very possible that maybe one of your landings, maybe your short field landing, maybe you're going to land long, and you did a self-initiated go around,
which is cool. That
That's
means
great.
I don't have to tell you to go around.
That's great. That kind of meets the requirement.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
go arounds, I think in general are pretty good. I will say this, the old aviate, navigate, communicate. I see a lot of people thinking that they've got to hit that push to talk and get on the radio right away and tell everybody they're going around. I think if you're at a towered airport, they probably see that you're going
They're
around.
watching every landing.
I'm not sure they really care what you're doing. I mean, they're protecting that airspace, if you will. But fly the airplane first. Just get the airplane going.
Tell them to go around in a timely manner.
Yeah.
Don't tell them you go around it on downwind.
Right.
That's a little late.
Yeah.
But I would say in a timely manner. Yeah, fly the plane.
Yeah.
And go from there. It's full thrust. Ditch that last stage of flaps. Get to a climb. Get to a lift component as you're nicely climbing away. The next stage of flaps, nicely climbing away. The last stage of flaps, and get out of there.
Yeah.
Go try it again. Do not force a bad landing. And typically a bad approach typically makes a bad landing. I'll just say it does.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Bad approach makes a bad landing. Don't force it. You don't like it. Get out of Dodge. Go try it again.
Right.
And again, self-initiated, have at it. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No harm, no foul.
Absolutely.
If you don't go around, we're going to probably make you go around at some point. It's not because we don't like the landing. It's not because we're scared.
Yeah.
It's because we have to see you go around.
Yeah. So that's it for landings. 3 things I want to address. First of all, we extracted a short and it went on TikTok, and this got over 10,000 views, I believe. It was crazy how many views we got on this one video. And I was talking about the gentleman that I had for a check ride a couple of weeks ago that showed up without a commercial pilot certificate. And I just want to report that the next week he showed up. He had his commercial pilot certificate, and he did a heck of a job. He did a really, really nice job on his check ride.
I brought that up at the DPE forum that we had, the CFI DPE forum we had at the beginning of the week. And not only the certificates, so your flight instructor certificate says only valid when accompanied with. So if you don't have your pilot cert, in theory, your CFI cert is not valid.
Right.
On that same note, we brought up flight reviews.
Yeah.
And I had everybody raise their hands. Who's an instructor? 3/4 of the room, right? Because it was soon to be instructors and instructors. Who's an instructor? Everybody raise their hand. Who's been instructor longer than a year? Raise their hand. Who's instructor longer than 2 years? Only 2 or 3 people had their hands raised.
Yeah.
And the follow-on question was, when was your last flight review?
Yeah.
And 3 people had their hands raised. One guy was like, I haven't done one. And I said, guess what?
Yeah.
Nothing you're doing is valid.
Right.
I bet you have something that qualified for a flight review. I suggest you go figure that out. Yeah. And then we got into the Wings program and how do we can, what a huge benefit the FAST team is, and what the Wings program is, and you can use Wings program to not only renew your CFI but also get flight reviews done. There's all sorts of perks and benefits, so we can, maybe that's an episode. We'll talk about the FAST team and explain
that would be good.
kind of ins and outs, because people know there's the haves and have-nots.
Right.
I think people know about it.
Yeah.
Or simply they don't.
Right.
And it's a great tool. Maybe that's an episode.
Right. Another thing I want to address is someone commented on one of the videos. They wanted to know about failure quotas. And I'm just going to say there is no failure quota. I have never heard anything from the FAA in my 11 years of being an examiner about a failure quota. So So,
I haven't been doing it
Yeah.
for 11 years,
Yeah.
but I've been doing it long enough, and I've been around DPEs long enough.
Yeah.
That has never, ever. If you're good and you're prepared and you meet the standard, you pass.
Yeah.
There's nothing to say that we had. No, that is but debrief, not a debrief item. That is a briefing item for me. I am not out to get you.
Right.
I'm not out to trick you. I'm not going to flip a plane in the switch to see if you caught it. That is not the intent of this check ride.
Right. So failure quotas, they don't exist.
Correct.
So last thing, we keep telling you to email us, and we keep forgetting to tell you what our email address is. I'll just put them up there on there. It's really easy. Wally@checkridechat.com or Jason@checkridechat.com. Put us both in there or one or the other. But that's how you get in touch with us.
Cool.
Go down and hit that subscribe button, and tell your friends about us. Share these videos. This is probably a longer one than we had thought, but it always seems to turn out that way. But we'll be back in a week or so, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good one, y'all.
Bye.